Today, I'd like to clarify the best I can using Prajna, using language Prajna, the difference between perception, consciousness, and Prajna or wisdom. We kind of use these terms interchangeably, but they are not interchangeable. One builds upon another, and Prajna requires the use of perception and consciousness, but it is not perception nor consciousness. I'm reading from the Visuddhimagga, the Path of Purification. And it says, what is prajna? Prajna is of many sorts, and it has various aspects. An answer that attempted to explain it all would accomplish neither its intention nor its purpose, and would besides lead to distraction. So we'll confine ourselves to the kind intended here, which is understanding consisting in insight knowledge associated with profitable consciousness. These two words, insight, knowledge, insight knowledge, describing what kind of knowledge, and what it's associated with is profitable consciousness or usability. It has a value, it has a purpose, and there is an end result to it. So in what sense is prajna? Prajna, it is knowing in a particular mode separate from perceiving something and cognizing something. For though the state of knowing is equally present in perception, in consciousness, and in prajna, nevertheless, perception is only the mere perceiving of an object, say, seeing something blue, okay, or yellow. It cannot bring about the penetration of its characteristics as impermanent, right, or as painful, or as not self. It cannot bring about the penetration or understanding of its characteristics. Consciousness knows the object as blue or yellow, so it's building upon what? Perception. It knows the object as blue or yellow, and it brings about penetration of its characteristics, but it cannot bring about, by endeavoring, the manifestation of the supramundane path. Understanding, or prajna understanding, knows the object in the ways we've already stated: perception, also the penetration of its characteristics, but it also brings about manifestation of the path. So this is the key thing, manifestation of the path. Path, what path? Yeah,
Purification.
Path to liberation. So it doesn't bring about the same freedom by virtue of both consciousness and perception. Okay. Suppose, and this helps to break it down, suppose there were three people: a child without discretion, a villager, and a money changer. If you had something precious that you wanted to redeem for its full value, who would you take it to?
Money.
The money changer. Not the child, not the villager, who may be wise in the ways of the village, but the money changer. The child without discretion, suppose these three people, the child, the villager, and the money changer, saw a heap of coins lying on a counter. The child without discretion merely knows that the coins are figured or ornamented, they're long or square or round. He does not know that they are reckoned as valuable for human use and enjoyment. So when we think about the things that we do in life, or what the quality of our speech or our actions are, it is around this notion of being reckoned valuable for human use, and for, or I'd say even for sentient enjoyment, for use and enjoyment of sentient beings. For use and enjoyment of sentient beings. So it's more than just seeing something, but is it useful? Is it valuable? Is it beneficial to human beings, sentient beings, and can be used for their enjoyment? The villager knows that they are figured and they're ornamented just like the child, but he knows that they are reckoned as valuable. So in other words, they have this value. This is the primary value. It is for use and wholesome enjoyment of sentient beings. That's the main thing. Not just their beauty for intoxication, indulgence, or whatever, even though they may bring you that kind of enjoyment. That enjoyment is a byproduct of their purity, I'm trying to be careful about words today because I don't want to confine. I want there to be a liberatory aspect to this and not a cramped down, put in a box, confined understanding. The thing about the villager is he doesn't know whether the coin, someone gave me, and I think I mentioned this once before, someone gave me a bracelet, charm bracelet, places they'd been all over the world. And that was their offering to us. Well, the bracelet, I don't know what I was really supposed to do, but I know what I did do with it. I cashed it in. And when I took it to the jeweler, he began, he separated each link and took off each trinket. And then he did different things. He immediately started sliding some here, and some here. And then when he had done everything he was going to do, he said, these are brass, these are gold, this is 20 karat gold, this is 18 or something, 20, this is 10 karat gold, and this is worthless. And he separated out, and I'll pay you this for these, this for these, this for this, and you can take those back. And so it's like that. He was like the money changer. It says, so the villager knows that those coins are reckoned for human use and enjoyment. They have a value, but he does not know such distinctions as this one is genuine, this one is false, this one is half value. But the money changer knows all those kinds. And he does so by looking at the coin, by listening to the sound of it when struck, by smelling its smell, by tasting its taste, weighing it in his hand. And he knows even that it was made in a certain village or a certain town or city or in a certain mountain or by the banks of a certain river. That this substance is only found in a certain place, or that it was made, crafted by a certain master. And this may be understood as an illustration. So penetration or perception, is like the child without discretion, seeing the coin. But because it apprehends the mere mode of appearance of the object as blue or so forth, it doesn't know the true value of it. Consciousness is like the villager seeing the coin because it apprehends the mode of the object as blue, and because it extends further, reaching the penetration of its characteristics. It's useful to buy things or pay for things. But Prajna is like the money changer, seeing the coin, because after apprehending the mode of the object as blue, etc., extending to the penetration of its characteristics, it extends still further, reaching the manifestation of the path. That is why this act of prajna should be understood as knowing in a particular mode separate from mere perception and separate from mere knowing. For that is what the words, it is prajna in the sense of act of understanding refers to. It is not always to be found where perception and consciousness are. But when it is not disconnected from those states. And because it cannot be taken as disconnected from perception and consciousness, it is consequently hard to see and hard to understand. Thus it was said by Nagasena to the Buddha, it is a difficult thing. It is a difficult thing, O king. He called him king. Done by you was the defining of the immaterial states of consciousness. When you declare this is contact, or in the sense form, this is feeling, this is perception, this is volition or action, this is consciousness. So this contemplation on the five aggregates is so necessary because that's the only thing, the penetration of that allows prajna to arise. We're not going to get prajna by reading. We're not going to get prajna by using language prajna solely. So language prajna is only the beginning point to establish perception. The language prajna takes us from nothing to something. But to really attain the wisdom of prajna, we have to leave behind the language prajna. That's just a rudimentary step to get us on a certain plane. Let's just say, if you're trying to get picked up by a helicopter, it's not going to come down to the first floor and pick you up. You're going to have to be on the rooftop where it can land. And so but you're on the first floor. You have to make your way up to the rooftop. And that's where you can intersect with or connect with or receive the updraft, be taken up by prajna. And then it goes into a whole different plane, a whole different realm of existence. But we can't understand that existence from the first floor. So there is the need for language prajna to try to explain things using some kind of words. Very difficult for that which is created, which is like language, to define that which supersedes its creation. Impossible to do, but we do the best we can. So instead of starting at the beginning and coming all the way up, he says we have to start just right where we are, and we have to think what came before that. And then we can tag that to that. Then what came before that. We can tag that to that. Then what came before that. And in this way, we will arrive at the vastness. But we're not going to be able to arrive at any vastness through explanation. It has to be through direct apprehension or direct realization of things. And so we start with the perception and perception comes about through our what?
Sense gates.
The sense gates. Yeah. And so we can know something, but what we do have to know is that that is only the rudimentary part of it. So it is partial. That makes it not the whole truth, but it's and that makes it false in the sense that it comes through compounding. Compounding is the things that come together to make something, to create something. It's compounded. Like I have medicines and they have to be specially compounded. I can't get them from a regular drugstore. They have to just take all the ingredients and put them together to make that particular pill for me. And so any phenomena that we can perceive, that's what we can taste, touch, smell, see, think, any of that is partial. Therefore, you could say that it is false. False meaning it wasn't in its original form. It's causes and conditions coming together that create this moment, that create this scenario, that create this pill. It's compounded. And so if we understand that, really understand it, we won't rely so much on what we see or hear or taste or touch or smell or think. It doesn't mean, though, that we don't pay any attention to those things. We just note that they are what? Partial and false. So understand the usage and the limitations of words. This is where we are now. To advance, when we were talking to children, we can say da-da, and that's it. We can say this and we can say that, and that can be relied upon as it. But as we start to grow, like into teenagers, we start to develop some discretion. Well, they said that and they mean that. But let's say you have a situation and they say, and don't let any strangers in the house, anybody you don't know, they don't come. But then something happens, and let's just say that the policeman comes to the door. I don't know him, but I'm having trouble in my house. My mother's not home, and I know that that's a stranger to me, but I need him to come in to protect me or whatever. It doesn't go for 100% every situation all the time, but one starts to develop a knowing as one moves from being the child to the teenager, how to evaluate when a situation calls for a different type of action other than the rule. And sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. And I'm going to give an example of how fine that can be from Buddha Master's teachings in a moment. And from that place of I don't know what you call teenagers, teenagehood. It wasn't I went from being a child to being a teenager, but it was a gradual path that one walked upon, developing some awareness and understanding of how to navigate or negotiate a situation, bit by bit, sometimes in this area, sometimes in that area. Even by just walking through it, sometimes made the right call, sometimes made the wrong call, but I learned something from that experience, like to apply it in this situation, but don't apply it in that one. And all of this is the process that we go through in untangling our knots or developing our capacities. No way, no way to avoid that, because we're already so covered over by obscurations and in a state of such unknowing that it's going to take some time to develop knowing, and it has to be developed. And it's one reason that we can trust, even though we may not always like it, we can trust the law of causality, because it's not going to be favorable towards me because I'm its friend, and going to diss me if I'm its enemy. It doesn't matter. It's like it says, shingles doesn't care. Like it just doesn't matter. We don't have to take this stuff personally, because it just doesn't matter. It's not like we are having preferences. It's just in that sense, so that when we encounter some unlikable karma, we don't have to get into a certain way about it, because it is impartial. We are the ones who are partial. And it will help us go through those times, with some dignity. And even if others are judging you in a certain way, what difference does it make how they judge you? Trust me, they have to go through their own stuff too. And they get, there is a judgment placed upon that in the karmic repercussions according to how they judge others. Because it is the mind state that produces everything. So the one who is judgmental towards others, that one receives the repercussions of that kind of judgment upon themselves. So you can tell a person who's so quick to judge or malign others or be unforgiving or always see them at one way, which is usually their lowest way, but never see the good points, never even look for them, never even supposed to have, don't even want them to have any, because they've already decided who or what they are and how they are. But can you see that this is the setup for your own judgment? Or for your, yes.
I was just reading the first hexagram of the I Ching this morning, actually, and they spoke that it's important to not get caught up in that, that we don't, I think they termed it like the great man, has tasks. The great man has his tasks that he has to accomplish with sublimity and used a lot of the highest aspirations that we have to achieve, and it's done through calmness and reticence, and when you're confronted with that, turning away, just quietly turning away. I'm using my own words now, but it's amazing how so appropriately you brought that up now.
Yeah. So if we don't like some things about our life or things that's appearing in our life, we have to be, we have to know that there is an impartial karmic outflow. And if it is appearing in our lives, there's two parts to it. One is accepting it could not be there, except the causes and conditions have presented itself, allowed the manifestation. The other is we can take comfort in the fact that it is permanent, it arises, it abides, and it passes. And the third is that when we can recognizing that which is unprofitable and abandoning the notions and the views that we hold around it allows for the shifting or the transformation of the suffering that we're experiencing. It allows for the transformation of the suffering that we're experiencing. And that is the letting go part of it. It doesn't mean like you just drop it or put it down, but it means that one understands where we are in the transition of something and the repercussions of something. And it allows us to go through very challenging, very difficult situations and circumstances with a kind of ease and with a kind even of gratitude. Oh, I see this, you know. And this is the way we move through circumstances in our life, not taking them as personal, but just recognizing causality at work, and cause and condition. And it also allows for the releasing of guilt. So somebody can still be trying to put you on a guilt trip or thinking of you in a certain perpetrator kind of way, but that's them. It does not have anything to do with you and how you have recovered and the good seeds that you were laying. They only see them when they
benefit.
no, they only see them when they see them. No, like the child. But because they don't have an understanding of the mechanics of the universe and how it operates, I mean, this whole life that we're living right now is simply for the walking out of causality. Cause is already planted. That's what we're doing all day. And as we are walking that out, we're creating new causes that are going to have to be walked out. So we should be careful how we walk.
What page were you on in there? Or what?
If it's this book, printed just like this, the blue one, it starts on page 479. The description of the soil in which understanding grows. And then it goes on into a description of the of the 5 aggregates. But I just read the first two pages.
Thank you.
Mhm. What time do I have to be on?
15.
Okay.
Y'all need to clear out of here like the place is on fire, right?
So I'm gonna end in 10 minutes. Only when the words of language exist can the doctrine of prajna, true emptiness, and reality be explained. Only with the doctrine of true emptiness and reality can one penetratingly see the state of reality illuminated by prajna, the unobtainable state in which emptiness and existence are perfectly interfused. After that, with gradual realization, one becomes a Buddha. Thus, Prajna is giving birth at all times. And at the end of the birth process, it gives birth to a Buddha. If you on your own accidentally see your original nature and illuminate your mind without verifying your experience through Prajna, then your experience is still called a natural, non-Buddhist experience. That's why people who illuminate their mind and see their original nature must undergo verification. This is similar to when one becomes a holy person, in which case one still must undergo an examination to verify that. And then he goes on and talks about how, because there's so few holy people, that they just sort of stopped even doing the whole verification process.
Page is that?
That's on 416.
Thank you.
And I want so one of the things that Buddha Master, being a great expounder of the cultivation school, is taking us back to being able to verify not just who sounds good, not just who looks good, but the realizations that come. And he takes it out of the realm of a kind of in this section, out of the realm of a kind of spiritual, i.e., religious practice, and he puts it into the scientific kind of category, and saying that the practitioners of old were great scientists of mind and understanding. And that there are rules or guidelines, but there are also methods by which one advances. And it's not all helter-skelter. The methodologies are stacked based one upon another. He says, and without that, there's simply no gain of any kind to speak of. When their life is about to come to an end, they're unable to be in control when death is approaching. They are sick and upset, and at that moment they want to apply an ability, but we're unable to do so. Even though we've learned the doctrine of Prajna, we were unable to master the method of how to realize it. Therefore, it's not easy to become liberated while still alive, to attain free control over your own living and dying, and to be able to apply Prajna naturally. But that was the purpose of the Buddha's teaching. Remember, that's like moving from the child who has what?
No clue.
Perception.
Perception and basic.
Right,
underlying wisdom.
right. So that's moving from that state of being a child or relying upon, merely upon perception to consciousness. What, after all, is the reason that made them unable to reach the state of Prajna they wished? He said it can be stated simply: the law of cause and effect cannot be ignored. Now, not ignoring does not mean believing in or not denying or even understanding the principle of cause and effect. Not ignoring means turning the wheel of Dharma according to causes. As to those at the level of ordinary beings who are not liberated, first of all, they're tightly bound by cause and effect. With the arising or movement of thoughts in their mind, they constantly fall into causality. The difference between ordinary beings and holy beings is that holy beings are not tied up by causality. They nonetheless do not ignore causality. So when I was speaking with you, Kadara, a few days ago, when somebody asked a question, a layperson asked a question, and you gave an explanation about the rules and what you thought about the rules, that was this principle right here. Instead of saying, well, I look at the rules and I do the ones that I think are beneficial for me or whatever. And I was telling Kadara that she gave the wrong explanation to a layperson, because that implied you could do whatever you think is right. And that could set someone up or for misunderstanding or creating karmic conditions in their life that could be harmful to them. And so this is taking it deeper. Isn't it wonderful that every question we can have, the answer's right there? You know, it's like just really so good. Or whenever we do something, or whenever we take let's say, in trying to do something good, to try to give an explanation, and we make a misstep. You know, we are immediately corrected because we want to know. We want to know. I mean, she grasps so to everything. I enjoy it so much. Kadara is such a challenge because you better be on top of your game, because she's going to ask a question. And when she asks that question, you know, best to say, well, I'm not sure, you know, or something like that, because she asks deep and profound questions. And that's one way that I know that this is not Kadara's first rodeo in spiritual life, you know, because of the questions that she asks. And because of the parts of answers that she remembers and gives back from time to time in living, you know, day-to-day situations. So to know her by perception would be to look at her age and say, oh, she can't know much because I'm 60 and she's 25 or however old she is. And to make that assumption based on that, that's like perception. You see what I mean? Or think that you can't receive anything from her because she couldn't possibly know. She's only been here less than a year. But I've been here how many years? You know, that's based on knowing. I hope if I've been here for whatever, 15 years, I hope that I know more than her, or what have I been doing these last 15 years, or what has been being taught the last 15 years, you know. So, but there's some knowing with that, but that's not Prajna. One's perception, one's consciousness. See? And so, I wish I had an opportunity to start my my journey in the place that we are now, with a teacher who could do more. My teacher could only give me the rule. I had to search far and wide to move beyond the rule to a kind of knowing. And then I gave whatever I had. But what if I had the opportunity to start with a teacher, better at the end of my life than never in this life, but who could start, and thank you, at a place where there is Prajna. And so it's important to understand that. And I'm going to end with this caution. I'll tell you a well-known story everybody knows. In ancient times, there was a Dharma master whose cultivated powers were very good, and he entered the samadhi state of jhana. One day, his disciples politely asked him, Master, do people who are great cultivators fall under the law of cause and effect? Now, what did Buddha Master just say? Great cultivators, what? Wait, but before that one.
They're not bound by it, but
They're
they
not-
ignore it.
They're not bound by it. So he said, do great cultivators do not fall under the, he told his disciples, people who are great cultivators do not fall under the law of cause and effect. What he meant was, how could causality tie up a bodhisattva? That term, people who are great cultivators, refers to people whose status is that of a bodhisattva. That one sentence answer proved to be troublesome. Later, when his life was about to end, because he was preparing to leave this world and was getting ready to pass away in a state of free control over his own birth and death, suddenly a pair of black and white deities of impermanence appeared, and they said, Dharma Master, you're not allowed to leave this world yet. And he replied, I have free control over my own living and dying. How can you bind me? And the messengers of impermanence said, however, you cannot be unreasonable. You did a terrible thing. You uttered a sentence that is quite erroneous. You said that people who are great cultivators do not fall under the law of cause and effect. That a statement of yours will for eons bring upon living beings so much sin, leading to descent into the hell of uninterrupted sufferings. You have to be held accountable. He was startled by that and did not attain accomplishment. Rather, he descended, and having descended life after life, he was reborn as an eminent monk and even a fox. However, in his seventh life, he saw a great Dharma master who was expounding Buddha Dharma, and he listened to what that great Dharma master was saying. And in the midst of the discourse, a person asked the great Dharma master, do people who are great cultivators fall under the law of cause and effect? And sitting on that dais, the great Dharma master replied, people who are great cultivators do not ignore the law of cause and effect. To say they fall under the law of cause and effect is wrong. To say they do not fall under the law of cause and effect is also wrong. It is called not ignoring the law of cause and effect. And just that one sentence instantly solved the problem that had been puzzling him through 7 lifetimes. Only then did he gain free control over his living and dying, and he was suddenly liberated. Can you see there's so many principles involved, and that once you mistakenly explain one of them, you cannot escape the consequences? Therefore, you should cherish the opportunity to listen to Buddha Dharma. It is not so easy to expand.
Thank you, Phil.
Yes.
On that hexagram that I read, Chien, the number 1 of the I Ching, it's about the creative power. And they said clearly that the creative power starts before all that is here in the spiritual realm. And I think that applies to what you were saying there, that knowledge that the great master has.
Thank you.
I have, here's my thing. 2 minutes, 1 minute?
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you.